Some 140 million people went to the polls this week as Brazil is in the midst of presidential elections.
Dilma Rousseff tem 40,68%, Aécio Neves.
After a first round, Brazilians seem to be split between two candidates. The current president, Dilma Rousseff, vows to extend social programs that have lifted millions of Brazilians out of poverty and reduced inequality in the country under her presidency.
A presidência da República não é o melhor lugar para alguém aprender a governar. Eu estou oferecendo ao Brasil.
The newcomer pro-business candidate, Aécio Neves, promises to fight corruption and jumpstart Brazil's economy. The future of Brazil, the country which will host the Olympics in 2 years, may very well be determined next week when voters will make their final decision. Our focus this week is on Brazil. Welcome to our focus on Brazil, where the unpredictable election race took another twist earlier this week. Only a few days ago, the country's next president looked sure to be a woman with a left-leaning agenda. However, Aécio Neves of the center-right opposition surprisingly managed to take a ride on this roller coaster. To discuss this and more, I would like to say hello to Ran Lutzky, our I-24 News correspondent visiting Israel. Hey, Ran, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Thank you very
So,
much.
can you tell us a bit, what are the reactions on the streets in Brazil to the latest results?
Well, it's still not over, of course. We got a second round in almost 3 weeks, so everybody is expecting this. For now, what is interesting is what will be the opponent of the third candidate, Marina Silva, if she will support Aécio Neves or maybe stay in the middle, not supporting anyone. So this is like the big issue these days in the Brazilian media and street.
So remember, a week ago, Aécio Neves wasn't even in the top headlines in Brazil since they were all so overloaded with the compelling life story of Marina Silva. How do you explain the broad support they gained in such a short time?
Yeah, it was really a dramatic campaign this year. Just to remember, Aécio Neves was a second candidate in the polls and for the second round since January, more or less. And Eduardo Campos was the third one, and around 10%, while Aécio Neves got around 27, 26%. But a tragic accident which killed the candidate Eduardo Campos in August actually threw everything around. Marina Silva came up and like a meteor took the first place in the polls. But since then, we saw a lot of attacks from Dilma and from Aécio Neves against Marina Silva, and it works.
And the fact that a right-oriented candidate overtook a leftist one and eventually made it in the race, this might symbolize the fact that the public's will is looking towards a more capitalistic Brazil maybe in the future?
Yeah. This party, the Social Democrat Party of Aécio Neves, is always almost in the second round, is a major candidate. If you look at the map of the vote, like the northern and the northeast part of Brazil are really supporting President Dilma and the Labour Party. This is because traditionally they are using subsidy from the government. They're giving them money, sometimes even not to work, just to receive the money, so they're supporting this policy. in the south, which is more modern and which is more industrial, traditionally, and also this time, everybody's supporting Aécio Neves. So this will be, again, the issue. And of course, but support of Marina Silva can be a big deal for Aécio Neves to give him maybe the little push he needs to go forward.
Ran Lutzky, thank you so much for keeping us updated and bringing us the latest.
Thank you.
The choice of Rio de Janeiro as the 2016 Olympics host is viewed as an extension of the successful World Cup in Brazil. However, according to the mayor of the city, this does not mean that the organizers can afford to relax. To shed some more light on the preparations, I would like to say hello to the most powerful Israeli in international sports, Mr. Alex Giladi, who among many other positions is also a member of the International Olympic Committee, and he's joining us now from Rio de Janeiro. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Tal. How are you? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing great. So, Alex, from your professional impression, will Rio be ready on time for the Olympics?
It doesn't matter if it will be ready or will not be ready. The games will go on.
And are there any conclusions from the World Cup that will need to be implemented in the Olympics?
The World Cup soccer and the Olympics are the two biggest media events on the planet. but that is where the comparison stopped. The World Cup is 120 hours of sport, 64 football games. The Olympics is 5,500 hours of sport. The World Cup have 900 athletes. The Olympic have 10,500 athletes. The World Cup is one sport. The Olympics is 28 sport. So there is no comparison, but they are both huge media events.
And hosting two international events in a 2-year period, what impact does this have on a country's economy?
This is measured by many, many different things, but Rio wanted the Olympics not because of the economy. Rio de Janeiro now needs a huge investment in their infrastructure because the games mostly will be in the new area called Baja. Baja now have 1 million people, but within 5 years they will have 4 million people. They must break the mountains and widen the roads. They must create infrastructure for sewage. They must create new hotels. They must bring Rio 3-4 steps higher in the international level. And all this will serve Rio for 50-60 years after we are gone.
Alex, we all remember the protests of the Brazilians on the streets before the World Cup. How would you describe the support for the Olympics?
I don't know how to relate to this. Social insecurity is something that the world is experiencing now in many, many ways and many, many reasons. Not always due to this tournament or these games. I hope that leaders of this town will know how to explain to the people that every investment in the infrastructure is investment in their future.
Thank you so much, Alex. Keep having fun in Rio.
Thank you very much, Tal, and have a good time.
Thank you. And now, what else is going on in Brazil?
Brazil's National Space Agency has officially confirmed a rise in Amazon deforestation for last year. Close to 6,000 square kilometers of forest across the Brazilian Amazon were razed between August 2012 and July 2013. This number represents a 29% increase compared to the year before. Brazil recently requested to buy 3 Black Hawk helicopters from the United States. The aircraft and some of the related equipment will cost Brazil some $145 million. The country said it needs the helicopters for search and rescue operations and matters of internal security. More than $400 billion flowed illegally out of Brazil between 1960 and 2012. According to a recent study, these illegal outflows have seriously weakened the country's economy. They have drained billions of dollars from it each year, money that could otherwise be used to help the nation's economic growth. Brazil's coffee supply is in serious decline recently following the drought that the country experienced at the beginning of the crop year. Experts are concerned that the shortage coming from the world's largest coffee producer will result in a global supply deficit and trigger price raise. Brazilian football legend Pelé has unveiled the first ever football pitch to produce electricity by capturing players' energy. The installation was launched in a favela in Rio de Janeiro. The electricity generated by players can power the favela's street projectors so that children can play safely into the evening.
For the first time this year, Brazil overtook the United States as a world leader in cosmetic operations, second only to South Korea. With less than 3% of the world's population, Brazil accounted for 13% of cosmetic operations performed last year. This included more than 500,000 breasts reshaped and 130,000 tummies tucked. Joining us now from his clinic is Dr. Nimrod Friedman, an aesthetic plastic surgeon and an international speaker who just returned from a nip and tuck convention in Brazil. Hello, Dr. Friedman, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. So, Dr. Friedman, how do you explain the fact that plastic surgeries are so common in Brazil? I mean, according to the stereotypes, Brazilians are pretty blessed.
Well, you know, I think that the Brazilians are much more aware of their look than other countries and other nations. You can see that although this is quite a poor country, you can see the amount of energy and money that all those people are investing in the way they are looking.
And does this have to do something with the permissive legislation maybe in that area, or maybe it is the public view that is very accepting towards such physical changes?
It's part of the culture to show their body and to look as beautiful as they can at the beach, at the parties, at the samba parties and everywhere.
So what are the most desired plastic procedures in Brazil?
They are doing a lot of liposuction, and the liposuction over there are quite different from what we are used to see in the West or in Europe. They are, in many cases, they are doing very small amount of liposuction, just sculpturing the body. And also they're raising demands in plastic surgery for men also.
Oh.
Many men are doing more and more breast reduction, treating what we call in our language gynecomastia, which means breasts that men have, and also doing the six-pack or the six abs.
Of course.
Yeah, it's something that is growing and growing, not just in Brazil, but also in Israel.
So what are the latest trends or developments coming from the convention you were at?
It was a national meeting of the Brazil plastic surgeon. I was invited over there to speak about three different things. One was what I just told you, operation for men, and also about breast augmentation and breast implants. Brazil now is one of the leading countries in the world who's manufacturing breast implants. This is the only country that got FDA approval, a company which is based in Brazil called Silimed. This is the only factory outside the United States that got FDA for breast implant. This is something unique, yeah.
Dr. Friedman, I would like to thank you for the great information and the lovely background, of course.
My pleasure.
And now we're joined by the person who turns our show into a carnival every week, our social media guy, Nitzan Peled. Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Tal?
I'm doing great. So what do you have for us today coming from Brazil?
Well, I know you are on Facebook, but can I find you on Twitter or LinkedIn, maybe?
Of course.
And what about Orkut?
Not yet.
Well, O-R-K-U-T, yes, Orkut. Maybe you've never been there, but for millions of Brazilians, Orkut was the most influential social media platform of the past decade. Yep, some might say even more than Facebook. Orkut, named after its developer, Orkut Buyukokten, a Google employee. It was founded by Google on January 2004, more than just a month before Facebook was launched. It had a really crazy relationship with the Brazilians. On one hand, it had millions of users in Brazil. On the other hand, it had trouble with Brazilian authorities over the fact that drug dealers and child pornography distributors used it for their activities.
Oh.
Eventually, after all of these growing pains, over the past few years, it had more than half of its traffic coming from Brazil. So if we learned here a few weeks ago about China's own YouTube, well, Brazil kind of had its own kind of Facebook the past few years, but no more. Last month, Google decided to close it, issuing the fact that the company had enough social platforms to deal with. So from a week ago, you cannot join Orkut anymore. You can download all of your content until September 2016. Maybe now we'll start seeing more Brazilians on Facebook,
right? This is what I was thinking.
Yeah. And we'll finish with this crazy beat.
22, 22, sou deputado.
Well, this fun-loving song was actually a part of a serious congressional elections campaign that ran in Brazil over the past few weeks.
Oh.
No joke. The guy with the hat, with the funny hat, is Francisco Everardo Oliveira Silva, or better known by his stage name, Chiririca. By his own definition, this guy is an actor, comedian, clown, humorist, singer-songwriter, and politician. And Tal, what do you think? Is he more of a clown or a politician?
Good question. All politicians are clown. Not all clowns are politicians. So, yeah.
Fact is, on the 2010 elections, Chiririca got so many votes, he was the second most voted congressman in Brazil's history, with more than 1.3 million votes.
I can see why.
So Chiririca the clown is a serious man, representing the state of Sao Paulo, in the Congress, and it makes me think, the carnival doesn't stop at Rio.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Nisan, for being with us. Keep smiling, keep dancing. See you next week. And of course, you cannot do a show about Brazil without adding some samba moves. Therefore, we have here in our studio Lina and Noi from Morango Dancing Group. Noi, what can you tell us about the origins of this dance?
It came originally from the black people in Africa, and it developed in Brazil. We renew it.
So, Lina, can you teach me the basic samba move, something that I can exactly... I'm on top of this. Thank you all for being with us today, and be sure to join us next week on another Focus.